Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast that features conversations about the life cycle of scholarly communication. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice, a publishing division of the Association of College and Research Libraries. This four-part series is brought to you with support from SAGE. These days, we find ourselves in a perfect storm of growing mistrust in science and a proliferation of misinformation. As we get past our incredulousness at this state of affairs, some of us are realizing that we need to turn the spotlight on the specialists who create, investigate, collect, and protect established scientific information. SAGE and Sense About Science, an organization that promotes the importance of science and scientific evidence to the general public, have released a report that pulls together those very same stakeholders, publishers, journalists, and librarians, to highlight the important roles these information curators play in today's information ecosystem. Joining the program to discuss the report called The People's Case for Curators and the Critical Importance of Curating Scientific Information for the Public Good are Tracy Brown, the Director of Sense About Science, Louis Coiffé-Gunn, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, and Camille Gamboa, Associate Vice President of Corporate Communications at SAGE. In this final episode of our series, we're back with Louis and Camille, and we spotlight the role information professionals play in public good curation, including how they're uniquely positioned for addressing the cultural issue of trust in science and how we can help them amplify this message. Okay, so Louis, I'm wondering how does supporting information professionals, naturally lead to more reliable, trusted research being available to the public?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, again, goes back to our ethical principles. So one of
Yep.
those is around a commitment to impartiality, which I think explains why we're such a trusted profession. You might have heard this stat before, but every couple of years there's a big survey that compares how the public trust different professions, and librarians always come top three. And I think part of the reason for that is that commitment to impartiality, whilst acknowledging we are human and have our own inherent biases. I think we do need to think about all the different users that we serve within our communities, even the ones that we might personally disagree with. We still need to make sure they have access to a range of things that they want, and people have access to a range of evidence on even the most controversial topics. So yeah, I think again, it's that point about empowerment. We don't tell people, we give them the tools and the skills and the information to kind of come to their own conclusions. So I think, yeah, there's a real focus there, I think, which will see us through even the most challenging situation, which it kind of feels like at the moment.
Right, exactly. And then just kind of continuing on with that theme, Louis, on this podcast, we often talk about academic librarianship in terms of day-to-day impacts and roles. But obviously, librarians and information professionals are uniquely positioned within all kinds of cultural institutions, allowing them a particular vantage point into this issue of public trust in science. Just curious how you think, Louis, information professionals are particularly suited to address this cultural issue of trust.
Yeah, I mean, some of it I've kind of drawn on before. So I think partly it's about that local network. So, university librarians, they should have good relationships with their local public and school and health
Hmm.
librarians, so that they can connect the dots between the teaching and the academic research that comes out of their institution. You've got a ready-made local network that they can draw on, which I think is really powerful. I also think that commitment to impartiality will support kind of supporting trust in science, because again, it's connecting people to trustworthy sources and giving them skills to kind of think critically about them. But yeah, I think it's something that as a profession we've just always been very committed to. There's a reason why it is a trusted profession. We really do care about the quality and the impact of information in a way that other professions, such as the tech industry, are probably more interested in the plumbing and how you get the information from A to B in amazing, innovative ways. We really care about what the quality and the impact of that data is.
Hmm. Excellent. Camille, I know you wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, I did. I just think this is such an important point, which is that, when we normally talk about, especially amongst publishers and those in the scholarly publishing community, the science community, when we talk about how to increase trust in science, we actually don't normally bring librarians into that conversation. Like when we talk with like science trade societies, for example, we think about other things we can do. But as Louis just said, librarians are highly trusted by most of the public, even in more, I would say, even in political times that have more tension, right? But part of the reason why we signed on to partner with Sense About Science for this new guide is because the focus is on, when it comes to science curation, the focus is not only on the scholarly publishing process, editors, research integrity professionals, and the work they do and the roles they play, but also librarians and even journalists who, after curation, are doing curation work to further vet. Like it's another round of vetting before it gets to what the public sees. I really like that this report gives equal importance to each of these groups of curators. And in doing so, it champions the role of the librarian and the many, many hats that they wear, some unknown to the public, many unknown to the public, I would argue, to bring good scientific backed information to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add to that and just
Of
say
course.
this project has been good because it's a cross-cutting project, a cross-cutting issue. So it's brought in my profession, libraries, but it also shows that ecosystem. So it's really good to hear from publishers, journalists, and others who often care about these issues from slightly different perspectives. And I include the tech industry in that. I think we all attack these issues from a different angle, but together we make a really strong team, and we should be kind of equal, valuable partners in that endeavor with kind of unique contributions each to make.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's like, all of the, I guess aside from journalists, but like, all of the work that these stakeholders do historically has been kind of in the background. And now there's sort of this necessity to sort of not just, bring it to the foreground, to foreground it and make people aware of what goes, how the sausage is made, but like also making the connections between, these various professions, librarianship, journalism, research, publishing, to sort of strengthen those bonds. Um, so, Louis, I wanted to kind of, there's a quote from you in the guide, and I wanted to bring that up and have you just kind of explain that a little bit further. Um, and you say, quote, "It's not just about giving people access to information, it's helping them know what to do with it when they have it and giving them the skills to make use of it. I think librarians see that as part of their job." Do you find this curational aspect of librarianship still at the forefront as vendors and publishers offer more advanced curation tools and AI technologies kind of are seeking to, automate this work? I'm just curious because it seems like, just as we were talking before, librarian jobs are constantly evolving and changing. How do librarians continue to advocate for those vital roles as information curators? I mean, you've talked about the importance of doing that. What are some tactics that they can use to communicate what they do?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I think it's always been that way. I know the ALA is 150 next year. We're
Yeah.
150 the year after that.
Oh,
I can
wow. Okay.
imagine there was a similar set of conversations when the printing press arrived. I think
Exactly.
the profession was just kind of beginning to see through all the changes from going digital and online, and then AI came along as well. So I think the profession is used to having to adapt and
Hmm.
evolve. And that includes using new technologies and new tools, while still kind of holding on to that kind of enduring set of ethical principles at the heart of it. So the tools that Camille was describing there sound fantastic. I would love to know how different types of librarians are making use of those. Same with a lot of the AI tools; they have amazing possibilities, but I think it's important that the profession engages with such tools critically, but does engage with them, test them out, and
Hmm.
then is part of the conversation to improve them. There's never a very simple answer, but I think updating our skills, engaging with the latest set of tools, bearing in mind always the kind of positive impact on our service users. That's kind of the core of what the profession should be doing. And then in terms of advocacy, if you can do all of that and walk the walk and demonstrate it, that should then make the kind of the impact and the advocacy piece easier, because you can talk about it and you've hopefully got some stats to back it up.
Right, exactly. Camille, curious, we've mentioned the guide, and how do you see sort of the next phase of that? Like what are sort of next steps in this evolution of building trust in research and science?
Yeah, we'll start with this guide as a first step, which is the articulation of this and definition and even framework of what curators do, and how they are truly, if you notice the title is public good curators, how they truly do bring about good for the public. We actually debated over that title. Does it seem, like we're saying that curators are telling the public what to say, or that they're elitist in any way? But I think in the end, it's right on the nose, because it's a public good what they provide. So I think the first step is making that definition, and then now we have this lens through which we can communicate. I'm actually a professional communicator by training. It's what I do at Sage, and to me, it is just so key that we spread the word through this lens of these people are providing good for the public, not just science communities, not just higher ed communities, not just those within the university world, but to the world and to everyone we know. And so I'm hoping, and our goal, and we have some tools to help with this, that our communities who have lots of mouths and have their own communities can help frame things that way and have a better way of kind of articulating what they do and why it's a public good in a very accessible way that anyone could understand.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Camille. And Louis, I think that's well in line with what CILIP is endeavoring at this point. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, it's a team sport. We need all of the kind of
Agreed.
suppliers and all the other professions who look at these issues to be working together as effectively as we can.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's all the time we have. Louis and Camille, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure.
You just heard from Louis Coiffé-Gunn, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, and Camille Gamboa, Associate Vice President of Corporate Communications at Sage. This 4-part series is brought to you with support from Sage. The Authority File podcast is brought to you every week by Choice and produced by digital media producer Sabrina Kofer. Underwriting opportunities are directed by Melissa Carr and Ryan King. For more information, download the Choice Media Kit at choice360.org. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.